I'm going to try to do my best. When I do these things, I enjoy the most to do a short speech and then open up for questions so that I talk about things that are most important to you. So I'm going to do my very, very best to keep my words as concise as possible. As preparing for this, it has been incredible to me how much has been done, how much we accomplished in 2009. It's been amazing. And I think as I am as an individual and we as our people, we tend to just move and move and move and not really look back and think about the accomplishments that we've had. So hopefully I'm going to hit some of the high points in anything and everything for that matter. If you want to bring it up at the end, I'd love to answer those questions. That's my favorite thing to do, actually. First of all, I'd like to thank Tina and Renee for putting this together. They did a phenomenal job. Tina Jouse and Renee, if you would stand up, please. We'd like to honor you. You know, the theme for this day has been building, and we talk about the foundation and the current building and our future. So I'm going to try to stay to that. So be thinking about how we've each been a part of this community and this building that we've built together. I want to mention two particular groups to start off with that has created the environment for us to be able to get all these things accomplished. First of all, I would like our city council members to stand up that are here. We have four. Jerry, there's John, I know Vicky's here, and Michael's here. These are folks that I get to work with, and the job that they do the job that we do together really creates the opportunity for this community to grow, and others as well. But we have a very unique group. We trust each other. We like each other. We don't think alike, which is good for you guys. But we do come at the end of the day with a consensus that makes it work, and it's really important to see that in Midland. The other group I'd like to recognize is the staff that works for our city. If all of you would please stand, and I'd like to give you a round of applause as well. All the city staff, please. And council, you stand up as well, please. And I know in working with them on a day-to-day basis, these folks are selfless. They are really looking out for our best interest and have done some really wonderful things for us. So we just need to recognize that without them, without their servant's heart, we wouldn't have a community that we have. There are some other elected officials we have here today. We've got Jimmy Smith and Luis Sanchez. If you guys would stand, they're with the county. And we also have Steve Thomas with the college and Dave Wadle with the Midland Telegram. Again, I talk about this consensus a lot because that's why we get things done. We are all working together to make this work. We've got great relationships with all the other entities in town, and so because of that, we're able to accomplish all these great things. And again, I'm going to try to move through some of these. Who remembers about a year ago, almost to the day, what was flying over Midland, Texas? It was Air Force One. President Bush was coming home from Washington, and I still have that picture in my mind of him flying over, buzzing downtown Midland. And to think about it, that was a year ago, and how much have we accomplished since then? But that's how we started 2009. And the thing that I remember, not only about that picture, but driving back from the airport in the motorcade with President Bush. I wasn't in the car with him, but seeing our citizens lining the streets and all the way to downtown, literally from the airport to downtown. And Don Evans was in the car with us, and he would call President Bush and say, "You see that guy on the side of the road? He's got that big sign." And it was interesting to be able to give a gift like that to the president and to say that, you know, this is what Midland's about. Philosophically, we may not agree with everything, but we acknowledge him for his service and his incredible sacrifice for our country and for us. And it was a proud day for Midland when we were able to do that. That's how we started 2009. So then Midlanders got to work. And I'm going to mention some groups today because this isn't just about the city council. It's not about the city of Midland. It's about our citizens and how much our citizens are doing to accomplish the goals and objectives that we all seek and want to do. Midland last year built and is still finishing up a brand new water tower on the west side of town. We were hearing about the growth, obviously the growth in the west side. We were running out of water pressure, it was decreasing, so we've invested an incredible amount of money in our future, and that'll be there for 50 years. So we've invested in those kind of things. We're working on a water reuse plant at Midland College, and I'll hit water a little bit. Again, I'm going to try to stay on top as much as I can, but that's one of the ways we can use our water resources better for irrigation purposes, and we're working with Midland College to provide that. How many of you have noticed our new Centennial Plaza and the beautiful park that has created? It's a great thing. One of the parts of that you may not know is our TERS, which again, it's another group that's investing in our downtown, paid for the majority of that. So that was something that wasn't coming out of our property tax dollars. It was provided by the growth of our investment in downtown, or the property values of downtown are driving monies that are going into investment projects like that. And you will see over the next few months, there'll continue to be more and more events downtown. Just be coming down to all these different things will be happening. How many of you seen our new BMX park? It's brand new. I got to see it for the first time Saturday with Jerry Morales. We were out there opening it. And how many of you saw the picture Sunday with him coming down that first? Wasn't that a great picture? I looked at that thinking he was 10 years old on a BMX bike. I loved it. But again, that was just it's a small thing, but it's a big thing to our community, because it provides a place for folks to go that they didn't have that opportunity. And the neat thing about it is also the fact that it was paid a lot by volunteers. Most of the equipment was donated. Most of the sand was donated. We used some recycled material from Grundy Stadium, and again, it's a world-class, well, at least a class park for our state. We'll have our first race coming up pretty soon, but again, it was done by Midlanders that decided they wanted to do something good for their community, and the city was involved in that. We broke ground for the new Performing Arts Center. It's an incredible facility, and I see a few folks here that had instrumental. Grant was very instrumental in raising money, and that's going to be an important part of our town. I described the loop, or the 191 and 1788 is the new loop, and that's going to be the intersecting point. And 10 years from now, we will look back and say, gosh, do you remember when? And it will be the catalyst, that one facility. And again, it had a lot of people were involved in that, but that's a big deal. I mentioned the annexation. That was the largest annexation area-wise that we've had in many years, and I don't know exactly how many, but it was a big area that we brought into our community, and it took some work. Not everybody wanted to do that day one, but again, our staff worked together, tried to allay their fears and work with them the best we could, the property owners, and now we've got a community expansion area that we have no idea what it's going to look like exactly, because business is going to drive that. And I'm not going to talk a lot about it because I have a lot, is we passed the oil and gas ordinance. Our council worked really hard. The citizens that were part of the committees that were part of that, committees of business folks and real estate folks and just committee members at large. It took a while to get there, but that was completed in December. And I'm very proud of that, because that's an ordinance that's going to last, and it'll shape our community for decades. And so we've got something in place that folks got involved in, and it didn't come from the council. It really came from individuals. I'm going to mention some other groups that had a lot to do with what happened in 2009. If you were part of Vision 2020, would you mind standing up? No, Becky's here, Laura's here, Robert. So all these folks, oh, and there's Lisa. These folks put together a decade plan for 2020, and got the opportunity. I've seen it twice, and we got the opportunity to see it last week. And I encourage you to read it, because that is their vision. It's our vision of what our town's going to look like in 20 years or in 10 years, and it's going to include more things downtown, more events downtown. Maybe some new fire stations, and on and on and on. And this group, different folks, probably dozens of folks, got involved every month and week to come up with this plan. And we've been doing this for, is it 4 decades? It's a long time. Mom was on one. It was at 1980. I don't know, a long time ago. But the point is, we have been doing this for a while, and if you read the past reports, you see we do those accomplish. So if you set those goals out in front of ourselves, we'll accomplish them. And then you'll also see it's not coming necessarily from individual or from the government. It's coming from individuals, and the government does get involved, and we have have been good partners. But it's coming from people, citizens, not us. Another group I want to recognize is the young professionals. Alicia, you have some of your group here today? And Laura's a part of that one as well. These are some interesting folks. Alicia gave me this little statement about herself or themselves. They said, we are organized, we are social, and we are involved. And it's really interesting that that's the order that they put because they are. And I've seen some of their events. How many? 150 folks, plus or minus. These are the next leaders of our community. And they're impressive. They're doing great things. They've built... They've made some. They've done some stuff for Hope House. They did care packages for the troops. And one of my favorites was there was a young woman that needed a liver transplant, and they raised money for her. And it just shows the heart of our young people. They're coming back to our town, and maybe new ones that are coming in. And so that's the future when you start to see young people that are organized, social, and involved. Another group, and I'm not going to hit everybody, but this was an important one as well. And I don't know that we have any folks here from Greater Ideal Baptist Church. I don't see anybody standing up. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what they're doing. Growing up here, there was an area south of our town called the Flats. And it was literally a flat area of a town. That's where they called it. And it had not been very well maintained over the years. Well, Greater Ideal a few years ago decided they were going to make a difference in their neighborhood. And truly on their own, decided to buy these businesses or buy these properties and turn them into thriving businesses. The first one was Eddie's Catfish, and it's my favorite catfish place. I don't know if anyone else has been there. But it showed that church getting involved in their community, making a difference in their community, and they've done lots of other things. One of the other things they've done is they're buying houses that are dilapidated and in disrepair. They'll fix them up and then put citizens in those houses, and they'll either sell them to them on a owner finance or they'll rent them to them without credit checks. And Pastor Bell said, we trust them to do the right thing, and we just believe it'll happen. So they're making a big difference in their community, and it's just it's refreshing to hear everybody sees different groups see different needs, and they get involved. And that's what we need to do as a community, is just continue to build on that. I'm going to hit a little bit of our water resources. That's something that it's on everybody's mind. And we have lots of options. I can go into great detail, and Stuart and some of the staff folks that are here can give you a 2-hour speech about it. But Midland is in pretty good shape. We've got water in the Paul Davis Field, which is just north of town, and we've got about 20 years of supply there, plus or minus. We have T-Bar Ranch, which is a big ranch in Winkler County. We have desalination that's a possibility. We're looking at that. We see opportunities for water reuse, like what we're doing with Midland College. We'll take water and use it for irrigation. We probably will start changing our culture. It's not going to happen a long time, but real quickly. It may take some time. But if we're able to save water, conserve water, that makes that supply last longer. And so we're going to have to think about water differently. Most of the water we get currently comes from 3 lakes, Ivy, Spence, and Thomas. And there's a drought going on, if you're not aware of that. And as a result, those lakes are down. So if CRNWD is the organization that owns those lakes, and we are customers, we buy water from them, if they start having to ration this summer because we don't get rains, then it will affect us, and it'll affect our irrigation, and so it's just something we have to pay attention to. But as citizens, we have to recognize if we want to be here 50 years, 100 years from now, we're going to have to use water in a very judicial way. And I think it's just critical that we start thinking about it like that. And I do. I wake up nights sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning thinking about things. What's Midland going to look like in 50 years? Are we going to have enough water? And et cetera. And those are the kind of things that we need to do as a community. So I'm going to leave that alone real quick. I'm going to talk about two other things. I was disturbed, and I know some of you were disturbed about the recent kick-ins. I don't know what you call it, where these individuals are kicking down doors, and it made me uncomfortable. I thought, gosh, what's happening? And it was real disconcerting, I would say. So I've looked at, and I've had the chief pull out statistics. Okay, is Midland, what's its crime rate looking like? And I'm just going to go through these real quickly. Violent crimes, which are murder, rape, robbery, we're all down. The category, we had only one robbery in January of this year compared to 11 last year. So some of these incidents that we've seen are very isolated, and as a result, our crime rate is actually down 4%. And if you think about that, that's since 2003. So our town, think about how much it's grown since 2003, and we have actually had a decrease in our crime. So we're going the right direction. It's just a little frustrating when things like this past event happened because people are nervous. It makes you concerned. But I'm here to tell you, we are safer than we've ever been, and we can continue to do some more things. I know that we have an issue with people running red lights and speeders. I see them and hear about it. Our police department is doing a great job there. They're ticketing more than they've ever ticketed. We've got our police department up to almost a full staff at this point, and that's a concern. I would like to challenge us, though, as drivers. When I get to see people that come from out of town, I met a lady here today, she's brand new, and I said, have you met any friendly people? And she said, oh yeah, everybody I've met is very, very friendly. And that's our culture. That's what we're like. But I don't know that that's the case when we drive. It's interesting because we get in a car and all of a sudden this man's going to blow through things. And I don't know that government's going to be able to solve that. Yes, we can write more tickets. We can do things to punish people. But there's something about our driving habits that I would like to challenge us to think about it. And if we're more courteous, someone else might be more courteous. And maybe that's perhaps a dream. But think about it like that our actions could impact other people in a positive way. And so perhaps instead of letting government come in and be more heavy-handed, let's try to be maybe more courteous. So that's my challenge. The last thing I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to open this up for questions, is the council and the staff worked really hard last year to keep your taxes low, and we passed the lowest tax rate in 21 years last year, and I'm very proud of that. It's a big, big challenge because people want to have the services, more services actually, and they want to pay less money. And it's very difficult when you sit in our seats to figure out ways of doing that. And the staff struggles with it. They work hard. They're constantly looking at technology and ways to reduce costs. And it's just a catch-22. And I'm glad that we have a council that thinks like it. And it's just not automatic. We're going to just raise it just because we have to. And the staff is saying, well, just have to. And so we work really, really, really hard for you to keep those property taxes low. And I'm very proud that we did that. All right, with that, I'll just open it up for questions. And if you have anything, I'll repeat the question. And if it's something that I can't answer, I'm hoping our staff will be able to answer it. So what's on your heart? And if you have any other things you want me to go into detail about, I'll be happy to do that. What things? Yes, sir. Okay. A suggestion from a citizen that we need to restripe Wadley, that it's hard to see those lanes. And I feel a little uncomfortable saying this because sometimes it sounds like an excuse, but it's hard to keep those lines there because of all the traffic, and so I guess we'll just have to do a better job, and some of the materials we used to use we can't, but thank you very much. Appreciate that. What other questions or suggestions do you have? All right, he has two questions. First is, why doesn't the city council pass a law to outlaw cell phone use in our whole town? Yeah, okay, moving traffic. So you could use it in your home but not in your car. And I suppose we could do that. I don't know that that's the best solution. And I've asked some folks that when I've been in groups, well, how many people think we should outlaw, maybe just use Bluetooth or hands-free things? And I suppose government can do that. We could decide as a community that's what we want to do. And I have not heard that that's the majority. So I'm hoping that people think about it. How many of you have Words, that game Words on your phone that you play? Yeah, I've got it. Don't play Words when you're driving. That'd be a good idea. Don't do texting while you're driving. So, again, I don't think that we shouldn't do it, but I guess that's one of the questions. The other question he asked was, why did we spend $18 million building a pipeline to the southeast part of town with wastewater? I can't tell you exactly why they did it in those days. That was probably the most prudent thing for that group deciding. Now, what are we going to do in the future? And we're talking about how are we going to treat wastewater differently. So I think, Ed, you got some good questions, and we're going to have a retreat in a couple of weeks, and I believe we will discuss what are we going to do with wastewater. And there are other options available to us today than we had a few years ago, so hopefully we'll come up with a way that is better or maybe more progressive than it's been. And you just have to make the decision at that time, the best. So I think we're going to resolve that. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I deeply appreciate what the City Council is doing, but my concern is in the area of transportation that you just mentioned previously about how we drive out here. But I want to personally thank you and the City Council members for having our transportation system, particularly the paratransit part of that department. For people like myself and for people who have some challenges, you don't know what it means to be able to be independent within our community. And I think that the service that you are providing for us is top-notch. And I hope that you will continue supporting our transportation system to help us get to our jobs and to our doctor's appointments and just even out to eat. It is a great service that you and the City Council has done for us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks. This gentleman is a part of our transit authority, transit board, and when asked him to be a part of that board, he said, "I had no idea it was going to require so much work." So we appreciate your service, and it is an important part of our community, how we handle transit, how we handle the bus system, and we're going to have to continue to be more creative with that and making sure it's something that fits all of our citizens' needs. And it's a reflection of our community, not just of the council. That's something that's a priority. It was a priority in Vision 2020 and how we can better utilize that, and we're always looking for ways to make it more efficient and so forth. So thank you. What other questions or suggestions do you have? That was going to be kind of my closing remarks, so I don't know if I'd answer it now and close. But I have this question a lot: how big is Midland going to be? And Midland doesn't need to be bigger; it needs to be better. And it's really important to recognize that our community is independent, it's entrepreneurial, and you can hear it on, and we're family oriented, and so that's our culture. And it's very, very unique. A good example, and I can go on and on and on about examples, but the best example I've had recently was the gentleman that wrote the article in the Spirit magazine for Southwest. Has anyone had the opportunity to read that? It's a phenomenal article, and when he was talking about it, he said that he had to skinny it down. It was too long when he first started. It's like 24 pages. So I think when he first started, he had to cut out 6 pages to get it to the size it is today. And he said he's done approximately 100 of these stories all over the country. And he said, bar none, Midland was the most friendly and the best city he had worked. And this guy lives in Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. So he'd been all over the place. And it was really impressive to hear from a gentleman that has done a lot of research on a lot of communities, and that's what struck him. And he said, I've just never been in a place like that. We can't lose that. That is critical for what we're all about. And all I can say to preserve that is elect officials that think like that. Because if you have folks that don't, then we will change. And so if we're thinking about how it's local and how it's important that we have people that understand really what Midland is, it will stay the same. It won't change. Now, yes, we'll have more technology. We'll have more things to do. The way we do things will be different, but our spirit's not going to change, and it will continue to be that way as long as we have people that are working for us that are thinking that way. And it's just so important, because that's what we love about Midland. And when you hear from a guy like the gentleman that wrote that article for Southwest, that he's been to 100 other cities and nobody is as friendly as we are, then that tells you something. And that's something we are not going to lose. And as long as I'm the mayor anyway, and the council I know is exactly the same way, we will preserve that. So it's a really great question, and I do think about that a lot, because that is who we are. So I don't know if that's a closing remarks or not, but it's really something that's important to me, and I believe, again, bigger is not better, better's better, and you have to look at quality of life. You know, are you happier? Are your kids happier? Grandkids happier? It's a wide range of elements, and so we just had to continue to do that. Yeah.
The situation south of town with the chromium in the water, could you address maybe how that's progressing, or how that's going to be addressed?
Yes, he was asking about the chromium in the water. That's actually in the county, and the EPA has been visiting with the county officials about how to solve that problem. And the city could be involved, but at this point we haven't met with them. They were coming out, was it last week? Yeah, they were coming out last week and got snowed in someplace. So we're going to have some ongoing discussions, and the big issue with that is, can they get city water, and how they're going to get city water, or how can they get good water. So we're going to still be in discussions on how to do that. So again, it'll be a collaboration with the county, with the federal government being the EPA, and we'll do whatever we can as citizens. The council did pass I wouldn't say it's a law, but we were struggling with, how do we sell water to folks outside of our city, because there's this issue of how much is that worth. Literally, we've been investing in our water supply for 100 a year, or for 50 years for sure. And so how can you calculate what that value is? So we decided as a council a few years ago to not sell water to folks outside the city limits, unless they would agree to not fight us if we annex them. And that's how we've been able to do it in the past. And it solved the problem, because it's difficult to say, if you're not a citizen, because it's your asset, you own it. So now how much can you charge? And it's a difficult number, because there's so much invested for the future and for the past. So that was a decision the council made. I don't know how we'll resolve this one, because it's such a unique situation, but I do believe we do have a great relationship with the county, and we're going to work on those collaborations more and more to make sure that, because all of us work for the same person. It's the taxpayers of Midland, and we're constantly looking at ways of working together. So that's about the best answer I can give you, is that we're just going to keep working and trying to find a solution that's good for everybody. All right, maybe one more question. All right. No, I guess that's it. I just want to say thank you for coming today. It's a wonderful experience that I get to work in this town and to be your mayor. It's a blessing for me and for my family. We feel like that it is a great honor to be here, and I'm just so appreciative of so many different people that make this thing happen. And we will be better if we all continue to work and to remember who we are, where we came from, and then plan for the future. So God's blessings to you all. Thank you very much.
Three out of 4 kids are not as secure as they should be because their car seats are not used correctly. But the latch system makes it easier to get it right and to hold your kids tight. Anchor, tether, latch. Learn more at safercar.gov.